Stars crawl into the underworld. Afterlife, an abyss protects you. And the light, goddess of the sun, brings you life. A deity, best it is her name. Come learn the ways of man, become one with the sand. The fate is in your hands. It's time to fight. You will rise, not fall. Never lose hope on the ground. We are one for all. The truth will always conquer. Capture the earth, chasing her mark. Get like mystical formation. Turn on the walls, beat on the drums. Let us claim this is war. In the dark, a river flows. The Nile is so big, power. A morning star is seen in our side. In the light, find your desert altar and your shrine. Look for peace, defeat the enemy. Run to the obelisk, defend this legacy. Fly to your destiny. It's time to fight. You will rise, not fall. Never lose hope on the ground. We are one for all. The truth will always conquer. Capture the earth, chasing her mark. Get like mystical formation. Turn on the walls, beat on the drums. Let us claim this. We rise higher, reach for the sky. Hold on to your weapons with pride. We rise up higher, conquer the ark. Get ready to fight for your life. We rise up. We're the kings, we're the queens. We're the gods, goddesses of this animation. Turn on the walls, making our mark. 'Cause we're the kings, we're the queens. Let's win this war.
What is going on, governors? Chiscool here, and today I'm joined by Dirty Dan Gaming, and we're gonna cast some Osiris League. Good sir, how are you? And are you hyped? I'm really looking forward to today's matches.
I'm extremely hyped. Glad to be casting alongside you, Chiz. Gonna be
Awesome,
an
man.
interesting slate of matches.
Oh yeah, it's the round of 16. So we're getting down to brass tacks here, baby. The best of the best start to duke it out, make it all the way to the finals. And today we get to spectate two teams that I actually don't know that I've spectated before. So we're going to be spectating E3O1, the Cosmic Hunters, and also VL. What do you think we should be looking for in today's game?
I think you're just gonna maybe not anything too crazy. I think both of these teams might come out a little bit conservative, maybe feeling each other out. This is win or go home scenario for these round of 16. So all these teams, I think we're not going to see such aggressive play as we've seen out of the gates in some of these group stage matches. So I expect it to be a little slow to start, but I could be wrong, and these teams could come out swinging.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, which is at this stage of the tournament, does it really make sense to take big risks? You only need to win by 1 point, and you're the winner. And sure, we'll be able to go back and look and see what the score was, but it kind of doesn't matter in terms of where you fall on the board. So to get to the quarterfinals, you got to win by that 1 point. Now, this match, by the way, will ladder into an exciting match next week against the winner of 1718 and 93T, the former champions from last season. So both of these teams are going to need to be extremely expert to hang for what happens next. And I'm looking forward in this game to sort of seeing kind of what they've got here. Now, both of these kingdoms have a shocking number of KVK wins to their name. We've got 7 wins for VL. For those that don't know, that little moon symbol, okay, the crescent, represents 5 wins, right? On the other side, you've got 8 wins for the Cosmic Hunters. I mean, this certainly, it's a signal of skill that they are winning KVKs. We'll see if it translates in Arc. Doesn't necessarily, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think along with the skill is just experience. Who's going to have the more developed accounts is one thing that I've been keying in on. The awakening system is really something to key in on. As we're looking through open field, who's going to have more troops in those marches is one thing that I've noticed with some of these bigger, kind of more well-known kingdoms as kind of being top-notch OL and or KVK kingdoms. So one thing that I'll be looking for on top of the skill and experience is who's going to have the better gear to bring some of those extra marches onto the field.
Yeah, I mean, you've got gear, you've got armaments and the formation system.
Whole new OL, baby.
It's a whole new OL. Hey, they even mentioned a little mystical formation in the intro there. Did you hear that? I'm pretty sure I saw a reference to a mystical formation. When do I get access to mystical formation? It sounds like you just win with that one. But joking aside, there are some good formations here that probably don't see as much use outside of KVK, or rather outside of OL, but could be good in OL. So for example, having extra march speed, triple line, could be really interesting here, right? Like, I don't know necessarily if that's what we'll see a lot of use, but even a new formation is on its way, 15% extra march speed on your way to a rally.
Massive.
Right? And again, I don't know if I would necessarily prio that in OL, because for the most part, you want your marches to be able to work outside of being in a rally as well. It's just 15% march speed to a rally, not also to a garrison, right?
I believe so.
Let me pull that up real quick. I think that if it's also to a garrison, that would actually be very standard to use. Oh, it's a rallied army or a garrison.
15% is massive.
Staggered formation, 15% march speed. I mean, that will become the new OL standard for sure for reinforcing a garrison. People already use special marches, right? Right? They bring in a fat march with some extra troop capacity. Yeah, staggered formation actually has a very clear role there. That is, like, dude, defending your altar with that?
Yeah. I'm curious to see. I haven't seen too much of it, but maybe even circle formation also making a presence, maybe this OL or later OL, as it gives a little bit of a boost to the healing, a little bit more sustain on those structures to keep them just kind of topped up a little bit when you're kind of lacking on that reinforcement. I haven't seen too much of it yet, but as we get into these later rounds, I'm curious to see if some people are maybe holding their hands back and now are going to start to reveal their full arsenal of what they had.
Well, let's see here. I've got the match. Let me pull this up for spectating and we'll jump right in. Again, we're watching VL from 1188 battling against E3O1 from 1301. So let me jump into the match here. Smash that spectate button. There is a delay on what we are seeing, by the way. And let me just jump in now. Here we go. All right. 1 minute left in the preparation for today's battle. We've got the Cosmic Hunters in red and VL in blue. Now, as they start to use their skills, we'll get to see kind of what those are. I think there are still some pretty standard skill choices. But I don't know, Dan, have you seen anything so far that surprised you with skill usage?
I would say the biggest thing, obviously the new meta is opening with energetic. It seems that everybody is doing that, which is going to give you a little bit more boost to that skill point bar for those first arc fights. Another skill I've noticed being used quite a lot is Valiant Stand, and at times Teardown, with only being one skill cost. One thing to call out on both of these teams, as I was kind of doing a little bit of homework. Both teams, I believe VL has only used 4 in this Osiris League, and E3O1 has only used 5. So there's a few skills on the board that we don't know what these teams use. So it's going to be curious to see what they're saving in those pockets.
There it is, energetic. Get that economy rolling right from the start, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. That is definitely the new play for sure.
Here come those fast troops, tier 1. I wonder if capturing a garrison, I would assume it does not qualify for that extra 15% march speed in staggered formation, but I am now so interested. We do see triple line formation in use here as they go and grab these buildings, which, hey, it just makes sense.
Get that little bit of extra march speed upon leaving the structure too. It's always a very sound play.
Oh yeah. And these guys are moving super fast. At the start of the game, there's that little march speed bonus, make things extra exciting to kick it off, you know? Obelisk about to flip over. A little bit slow compared to the team in blue, but close enough. Sentries being deployed. And it does look like they are walking right past these outposts without taking them. Not a great sign here. There we go. Somebody's like, "Oh, hey, let me just tab that real quick."
Got to get all the points. As we said, this is knockout. This is win or go home. All these points are going to matter. And I'm also going to be curious. What I've seen in this Osiris League so far is the outpost teams are extremely crucial. If you can deny those 90 points, and also if you take an outpost, losing sight of the arc, just so much value coming out of the outpost. Whereas I think before they never really held to such a regard, but we've definitely been seeing some teams really take advantage of outposts and swinging matches with even such small points.
Yeah, I mean, I keep looking at this outpost. Hey guys, you're walking right by it. But the thing is that they're probably not looking at their marches right now. They are skating to where the puck is going, so to speak. So they're probably looking where the action is. And these sentries are within range of each other. So we have vision of them. They have vision of them, I guess.
Yeah. See if they take them down.
Yeah. I mean, really surprising to see them both put the sentries. Like, of all the places to put sentries, that's really interesting. That basically the team in blue is like, hey, we're attacking. And I guess the team in red is saying, hey, we know this side is probably going to get attacked. Let's try to defend this side and see what's happening.
Yeah.
Sentry's gone, though.
Traditional opening. I'm surprised VL and blue put that so high up. I think that they were probably trying to see if anyone was going up towards their sky altar. But I think it's a known thing now that you're going to push onto that desert altar and they're going to come and defend. So curious as to what they were trying to peek at there.
Look at this Joan rally cruising by. Joan Nevsky? It's got to be a transport, I would think.
Potentially, yeah. One thing I noticed in some of the matches that I actually never seen before, Chiz, is some of these teams will actually run the rally all the way up to the obelisk, break the rally, and then use the marches to eat up teleport spots, which I think is such a small, little intricacy. But if you're not patient with that and you just start porting your cities in, it can kind of throw some things into a little bit of a disarray. So I'll be curious to see if they do that here.
I am a little surprised. It makes sense they're grouping up. I thought these guys kind of had the jump, though, in blue. But it looks like a lot of the marches are still kind of catching up to the action. So they are opting for a diversity of marches. Some of them, like the Guan march here, is a little bit slower. But They're on their way, and they are hard hitting. Interesting to see the Herman Prime, Zhuge Liang, with the Herman Prime as the primary commander. What are your thoughts on that combo?
I personally don't have it, but I've been hit by it, and it definitely stings. As being a dedicated cab main, so definitely want to take those and prio those in the field, especially with the poison stacks that these Hermans are throwing onto you.
Oh yeah.
So you see some of the fighting starting on this desert altar.
My suspicion is that the use of the Herman Prime as the primary here is just for the march speed. The speed boost you get for 10-15 seconds when you leave a structure, it's just so huge. So I think they're just going for that extra march speed advantage, which is super reasonable in my opinion.
Absolutely. That's very similar with what you see with people bringing the Joan primaries out into the field as well in Osiris League.
Good grab here by VL. In fact, they got a lot of structures on the map for now. I feel like the presence, though, from E3O1 looks like they'll be able to solve this in the next 3 minutes.
I believe so, too. It's got to get rid of those garrisons. I saw it on the field, and I know they probably couldn't see it, but you kind of got to search for them. It's a pain. It's a pain when one of those garrisons sneaks in, and now you got to have to convert a little bit more resources to take that thing down.
Yep.
But yeah, VL getting a lot of the map here. There's a lot of blue. Good job by them.
Still a few minutes before those start capping for points, so we'll see if E3O1 flips some of that back. It includes, by the way, an outpost capture, which those outposts are going to add up for the points. Altogether, they become pretty meaningful. And this is evolving the way we both sort of thought it would, with E3O1 having the dominant presence. E3O1 under some pressure at their Shrine of War. Gorgo is the garrison. Swarm going right in, ignoring the fact that there is still open field presence. So they think they're really trying to pry this garrison out of the hands of E3O1 to get those first capture points.
Yeah, trying to get first capture points, kill off some troops to get ready for the refresh for that first mid-arc rotation. Something that you always want to do, and if you're able to snag a structure from it, even better.
Yeah, with 5:20 left till first arc, it is time to get to the middle. You're right that if these folks from VL don't reset now, they're not getting to mid in time. So this is the time to do that. Full send on the garrison. Hopefully you take it. It does look like there's a strange split here of like some people fielding, some people swarming the garrison, which
always happens.
Yeah, there's always some chaos, man. 2 outposts, by the way. Now blue on the topic of chaos. That Gorgo garrison's holding up great. I mean, as a expert in the Gorgo garrison personally, I can tell you it's got some really hard-hitting damage.
A lot of staying power, too. That's definitely been the choice for some of these top teams. Gorgo, Heraclius, Gorgo, Constantine. And then also seeing a lot of Heraclius YSS play in these garrisons too, but always a good option going with the infantry, who've always been so good at garrisoning.
Yeah, I think the addition of the formations and that normal attack damage that Gorgo's offering, I mean, compared to, for example, a commander like Xeno, Gorgo doesn't have as much staying power, but the way she accomplishes that is by just destroying the swarmers. Just destroy them.
Yep.
And she does shield, to your point of staying power. And so you pair with Hera, and you honestly almost have an opportunity to do something with Hollow Square formation. Some shielding synergy,
I really do. I'm working on mine right now, but yeah, those inscriptions for Hollow Square they scream that they're made for Heraclius. So again, formation's playing such a big role in this Osiris League, and I think you will see it on some of these garrison holds that we've seen in the past. Some of them just really hanging on and just being a pest by not going away as this Gorgo finally goes down.
Yeah, so the Gorgo, she falls, but like, look at all these marches that are certainly not going to make it to the mid-fight in time. Speaking of which, how is that looking? We get a peek here. We can see that folks are just arriving, so still plenty of time to get to the middle, but by plenty of time, I mean a minute or two, not 3 to 5 minutes.
I think E3O1 might have the advantage here. I'm kind of scanning the map a little bit around. Looks like VL has some marches kind of all scattered. Looks like VL might be a little late.
Yeah, we get a look around here. I mean, they're on their way to the middle. The thing that's a little weird is that, I mean, they do have a structure advantage. They've got this desert altar. But they also have a lot of marches committed to defending it still. So it's not like they have the structure and they're leveraging that to a mid presence advantage. They want to hold this thing, for better or worse. And thankfully for VL, E3O1 is also going to commit marches here. I mean, it's funny because so much of this is about committing more marches to a place than your enemy. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
And if, you know, all other things equal, you'll win wherever you can commit more marches than your enemy.
Yeah, looks like it's gonna, that little move right there, sniping that home desert altar from E301 will kind of level that playing field a little bit out and maybe make up for the lack of timing that some of these VL marches had of getting into the middle.
117 till Arc drops in. There we go. Valiant Stand.
Ooh.
I would not have expected to see that be used right before a mid-fight.
And with the Nevsky garrison, the garrison wasn't even properly in there. It looks like it's still gonna kind of make an effect, but still a little late on that.
I mean, one of the other casters in Arc League is an expert with the Nevsky garrison.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, man. Anyways. So, yeah, Nevsky garrison, not ideal. But there we go. Jan Ziska getting flipped up to captain. And honestly, the Nevsky was doing okay. I mean, so when Nevsky gets attacked, you have a chance to trigger that 30% health, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
But obviously not ideal. Let's go back to middle here. 24 seconds. Here we go. Dust up by E3O1. Bogged down by VL. Mirrored by E3O1. Total vision for VL. And now they slug it out.
Pretty even on the skills here, kind of trading off evenly, and now it's just going to come down to who has the better aptitude in the middle. I think a lot of people kind of take for granted that this does take some skill in the middle to target the marches appropriately and clear the field. It's not just all about the skills, so definitely always interesting to see who has the better the skill use from their own marches and targeting, I should say, in these mid fights.
You know, this makes me wonder, is attack march available in Arc? You know?
I'm not sure.
It's in my KVK, and you could basically target the ground behind an enemy ball, and your troops will just march forward and hit whatever is closest and in front of you, which is... I need to use it. I haven't yet. I've just been manually controlling my troops. But my alliance members said they used attack march to good effect. So I almost wonder, like, if you're struggling to control your marches in the middle, if attack march is in here, that could be pretty cool. But here we go. So VL emerging with this arc here.
Quite easily. A lot of blue in that. A lot of blue in that field still.
This makes me think, by the way, what is E3O1 going to do? Do you think they try to ambush the carrier? What I've lovingly called 93ing this arc? Or do you think they're going to do something else?
It's always tough, especially when you're down on points already. I mean, there's a, 4,000 400 point lead for VL already. Points per minute not looking good for E3O1. So it's really a tough call. I think you kind of do have to kind of try and take a shot at this arc to try and close that gap a little bit, because to make this up purely with structures and to know that VL is potentially going to hold on to this thing might not be enough. But I don't know if they're going to go for it here. It doesn't look like it.
Look at this carrier, man. He's all by himself. Literal solo carrier, less than 50% HP. Just taking a leisurely stroll back to the obelisk here. No threat, by the way, whatsoever toward that carrier. It looks like E3O1 is operating kind of under the assumption that that carrier is not so... Wait a minute. There we go. That double C is hunting. Actually, this could get really interesting because they do have this outpost they could go to.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It does look like some support's on the way, and this guy's in the shadows for now. He doesn't have much time to take out this carrier, though, before it could potentially go Shrine of War. Hey, it's marching.
Yeah,
I mean,
here
look.
come the reinforcements.
The chances are pretty slim that they take down this carrier and do something insane. But we all want to see something crazy. So let's see what they can get done here. For whatever reason, they're focused on the Joan instead of the... No, they are on the carrier. Think. Yes. Yeah, the carrier is dropping in health.
Okay. Yeah, he's kind of a little dancing around there. Maybe a little bit of taunting. Oh,
Carrier made their way over to the caravan, drops the arc, but that lets a fresh march pick it up. So,
good play.
yeah, new carrier is going to take that thing. What I find surprising, though, is that this building is still red, and this arc still has so little escort. Like, someone could roll up on this thing still. They don't know. It's fog of war. But I guess they're feeling very confident that's not happening for whatever reason.
Kind of interesting to think of why E3O1 didn't try to make a play for that arc, knowing that they have the outpost so close.
You know, I think it's easy to say, oh, they should, you know, go for the arc carrier. But it's actually, I mean, if we give credit to it, it is hard to execute.
Yeah, especially with Fog of War now. Don't really know where that thing is.
I feel like, though, given how the match is going, it would be a acceptable level of risk. The uncertainty of maybe we get this carrier, maybe we don't.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, the lead looks like it's just ever growing now. 5,100 points in favor of VL with the arc in hand. So I mean, you're looking about an 8,000 point swing just 21 minutes into the match. That's pretty significant ground to make up. So E3O1's going to have to get moving here and get extremely aggressive on these structures, or pull a rabbit out of the hat and snipe this arc somehow.
Yeah, I mean, look, the obelisk is actually 47 seconds. You've got a garrison captain swarming it. Uh-oh. I mean, I just don't know that it's got the DPS to actually do this. It doesn't.
And he's going to walk away.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Wait.
Uh-oh.
We have to keep our eye here. He should not have pulled off. Like, there's nothing else to do. Literally, this is the whole thing. Right now.
This is definitely not what E3O1 wants. Trying to kind of keep a stable game, and they're about to get teleported in on.
How many TPs do you think?
Uh-oh. Let's see. Oof.
Oh! They got it back.
Wow.
They
What a
got it
save.
back. That is some timing right there. GG. All right, well, that could have been really crazy. But E3O1 gets the obelisk back at the final seconds before they were going to get TP'd on. A very solid play.
E3O1 starting to stabilize a little bit now. They do have that shrine that we're watching, so accumulating some points there. Just got to start pushing the envelope a little bit more here. A lot of ground to make up. I'm curious to see also if there's any provisioners, although this gap is quite large. I don't know if the provisioners are going to matter at this point. You might want to opt for those extra troops in the field to start to grab some of these structures.
Yeah, I mean, okay, they are holding the arc. I was going to say, if you're in blue here, I think you just want to hold this arc, let the gap widen, minimize the number of opportunities for E3O1 to get back into the game. Because what they need to do is score a couple arcs, right? Yep. So if BL continues on the path of not affording them those opportunities, they're in a pretty good spot in the first 30 minutes of the game, and there will only have been one arc. So
I'm curious to see, though, last season, as I'm looking at my notes, last season E3O1 was ranked 9 in the Realm of Forest. They were actually ranked 1st in provision scores, and I don't see any provisioners on the field for them right now. Wow. If we make a callback to last week's upset against Evil Empire against 60MX, Evil Empire provisioned 4,500 points worth of provisions, which etched them the win. It was only a 2-arc match. So in these 2-arc matches, provisioning can be massive. So I'm curious to see why E3O1, something that they were very strong at last season, they are not opting for this time around.
That is surprising. I'm not surprised to hear that what was their team name again? 1EE8?
1EE8, yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear them doing something that I'd call like shenanigans. They're always up to shenanigans, you know? Like they always have a trick. So to hear that it's provisioning is kind of cool. And that does point to the fact that, hey, E3O1, they're good at provisioning. It's a viable trick. Just happened last week.
Very curious. Play to your strengths. Don't try to rewrite the ship. Just play to your strengths. It's always the best way.
That's why I still use Trajan. I gotta play to my strengths, bro. I do see an Ethel Trajan on the field here, so that joke based a little bit in what I'm seeing on the field. But I don't see that really at all in the VL roster. They're moving away from some of those leadership commanders, and yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. They're getting a little old. Commander age and power level often are synonymous. Not always, though. Alexander the Great, still doing some good stuff. Although I don't know that I see him here. Looks like one infantry combo is the thing to use, and that combo is Skippy with Liu Cha.
It's definitely interesting to see teams' commander compositions as I've kind of peeked in on some of 2975's OL practices. I have noticed a few things which I obviously won't reveal so I don't get zeroed, but it's definitely interesting to see when teams kind of get together and brainstorm on how they want to approach these commander pairings in the field, and kind of having a little bit more of that, I guess, giving a little bit more of that personality to your team, I should say.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for each team to have, by the way, like your sort of team captain or whomever decides to take on this task, but to actually say, hey, here's the combos we're using, rather than letting people just kind of wing it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That happens at an individual level. Hey, you bring these marches, but also at a team level. Hey, like, here are the combinations we're trying to field.
That's why I think you will see the occasional Ethelflaed or Trajan or vice versa in these matches, at least a couple, just to kind of sprinkle in, and they are extremely helpful in those mid fights too, although you're kind of, you know, giving up on a little bit of damage for some of those buffs, but yeah, definitely something you still see sprinkled in, as I think we'll see some maybe potential interesting combos as we get a little bit later into these stages as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to know whether or not Trajan is actually a good commander to use in large fights, like, just look at Canyon. Canyon, you run it down, just like you would an Arc in a mid-brawl, right? Mm-hmm. And you see that Trajan's everywhere. All over the leaderboard for Canyon. Now, obviously, a mid-brawl is a little bit different, but there's definitely value having those buffs. Rage, the all damage taken by the enemy if you bring mixed troops. A lot of people don't at this point. They go full cav. Justinian Rally here getting swarmed to the high heavens.
Interesting choice on the cav rally. I've seen a lot. I would say probably 90% of these rallies that I've seen have been all archers just opting for that high damage output. Asher Banapal, Henry's, the Asher giving the nice debuffs too, potentially, with that little bit of a dice roll of expertise that he has. But yeah, seeing a lot of archer rallies. It's very curious to see a cav rally, especially when you're so close to your home structure.
Henry finally making it, by the way, to the daily special offer very soon. I'm gonna be going for that. I was a holdout for whatever reason. And, like, could I have been using Henry this whole time? Yes. Although I'm not an archer rally lead, so, like, less of a concern for me, but definitely a strong commander.
He's really nice in the artifact formats. Myself being a super heavy cav main, I kind of lost the ability to do like a viable rally unless it was an Attila Nevsky or something, which is okay, but I don't think the damage output is quite there. But when you're in those artifact KVKs, putting a Nevsky with Henry is very, very nice. Chef's kiss. I wish I had that, but I will start working on that now alongside with you, Chiz.
You want a real rally? Use Attila Liu Chao with an artifact.
Yeah, there you go.
Shreds, man. Oh my goodness. And you can't swarm it.
Yeah.
Brutal. It is brutal. Oh, we see the XY on the field here. How many cav pairs do you think is appropriate to use an Arc? I feel like the ideal number is 2, right? It's got to be 2.
Yeah, 2 cav, 2 archer, 1 infantry, I think is probably ideal. I think that's what you're looking for. Even like KVK setups too is probably the most optimal way to go right now. If you could sneak a 3rd one in there, it's not terrible. I mean, they're still extremely valuable in OL formats because timing is so key, and obviously cavs are the fastest to get around the map. So I think you could stretch it to 3, but you definitely want to keep it, I think, to a 2-2-1 format.
Yeah, I mean, once Belly Prime arrives, it gets a lot more interesting. So Belly Prime drops tomorrow? The day after tomorrow? Kind of depends on what time zone you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty exciting. Also, Eleanor. I mean, do you think that these commanders would mix up the meta? I assume they'll be usable immediately in Arc.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking on that too, if they will be listed as available. I'm pretty sure they have done in the past. I think Belly is going to be an instant addition to some people's OL lineups.
He's a no-brainer. Oh my god.
Yeah, just because of that expertise and what he's doing with the swarm. Very curious to see what comes of Eleanor. I think that's a huge question mark.
Yeah.
How she's going to perform.
Yeah, I don't think she's really the anti-swarm we're looking for Arc.
Mm-hmm.
People were hypothesizing she might be, though. But I do think that Belly Prime is, like, literally you have every player bring that if you can.
Yeah.
It's so good here. I gave my thoughts on Belly Prime, and it was not a popular opinion, which is that I think he's going to be a really strong commander. And anyways, that was an unpopular opinion that I think I had. So we'll find out in a day or two. Like, hey, is he actually gonna change things in this really major way that I'm anticipating? I think it's going to be big, man.
He might even shift those commander rosters that we were just talking about. Maybe he opens things up and now it becomes a 3-1-1 setup because he's just a must-have, potentially. So very curious to see how he's going to affect some of these Osiris League rosters for sure.
Yeah, I think that absolutely could be. I mean, it's kind of curious because most people are either rallying, garrisoning, or filling a rally or a garrison. So you're really almost like 2 cav, 1 archer, 1 infantry, 1 fill. And like fill is like very legitimately a role now that you can. I mean, gosh, that new formation coming out, 15% march speed.
Yeah.
This is a long distance for a 15% march speed boost. Sky altar to your cities, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually massive. Like, once people start getting some good armaments for that, where good is defined as march speed,
Yeah.
You're going to be looking at, and we don't even know what the rare or legendary inscriptions are for that, do we?
I don't think so. No, not yet.
Right. So, assuming you could pick up 20 to 30% march speed, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Might see these even going on the offensive too, and just I've had my struggles with that as well, playing on Osiris League teams where maybe your timing's a little bit off, but now this extra march speed can kind of compensate for that if you're a little bit off on your timing and whatnot, and just being able to reinforce on an offensive end. And to your point too, on defense, it's so nice because the march is so quick, it's so close already.
Yeah For reinforcing a garrison, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually insane. Now we've got about 4 minutes or so till the arc spawns in the middle again, by the way. Scoreboard is a pretty wide gap, though.
Mm-hmm.
With 25 minutes remaining in the match, the path to victory here for E3O1 looks pretty slim. What would have to happen?
Quick arc capture, and maybe via a master strategist, potentially, and then pray that you can get onto a third arc and use a 2 to death that doesn't get countered. I mean, there's a lot of things that you really need to go in your favor to kind of close this.
They need
this
2
gap.
arcs, right? Like, they have to get 2 arcs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or they need to have provisioned like crazy, which we don't think they've done. So,
yeah, I don't see any provisioners on the map for E301. I did see a few for VL, so again, just very confused as to why they're not playing to a big strength of theirs, which could have, but in this amount of time that we've waited for the next arc and the entirety of this match so far, you're probably up around an arc score if you've been provisioning the entire time. So it would be a little bit closer, and you wouldn't have to have as big of an uphill battle.
the only weirdness about that is that it does take marches away from other things they need to be doing that they are behind on. And so they do need to be doing those other things. But, ooh, I don't think this changes the calculus if they could get this obelisk. But here we are. 2 minutes on this, and it looks like DL sees it. They're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna deal with this real quick and then go mid.
Yes. I mean, it's almost too late to go middle from this position. It all depends on when the mid fight starts. Honestly, like, I would expect the mid fight to kind of start at any time, but this is really not the position we wanted to see E3O1 in if they're gonna contest middle now.
Yeah.
They got
all
like
kind of
7 or 8 marches here.
Yeah.
Some of them are, I don't know. It looked thin, but it actually isn't. Yeah. This is going to be rough. They may be running out of troops, honestly. And it would be reasonable to make the call like, hey, guys, don't use your healing speeds on this. We're GG'd.
Mm-hmm. I know. I think from looking at the ranker for this season so far, I believe E3O1 has healed a fair amount on this Osiris League
Really?
run already. So I think it was somewhere in the realm of like 128 million troops. So maybe like you said, to your point, making that call
Could just kind of be time. Say, hey, GG guys, save the speed ups for something else, because it is a non-zero cost if you don't have the troops.
Yep.
It's all a matter of perspective. Some teams take the opposite approach. Say, hey, like, we might lose, but we're gonna do everything we can. But also looking further down the bracket, I mean, hey, look, if you assume 93T is gonna win their match, then you got to fight 93T. Like guys, like if you can't dominate your match, I don't know. You gotta. Assuming 93T swings as hard as they did last season or harder, that's gonna be a tough one. So it's just not unreasonable, given the cost of healing speeds, to just look down the line a little bit and go, well, guys. We had a good run, This is what we like to see, to the death. I do feel like that was really premature, however. Perfect world, you wait until you've actually got both teams premature on that. You've really got contact with the enemy. Now I would use to the death, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't last very long, and you really want to take advantage of that.
Yep.
Also, that bog down
on the counter to the... I believe that was VL. You throwing that down? Oh no! I'm sorry. That was E3O1. Okay.
Yeah, so they've got the to the death bog down combo going, right? Which is pretty sick.
Yeah, that bog down looking to counter the to the death from VL.
I'm really surprised that bog down is effective. Like if we look at where the marches are located, I think the majority of the marches are standing on it, but I think it was a little to the north of where it needed to be. No?
Yeah, I agree.
What worked out though, as it turns out, so I think of bog down primarily for the, defense reduction?
Yes.
But they actually took advantage of that in part for the march speed reduction there, because LV is trying to escape with that arc. And it's not as far as he would have been.
I'm just curious as to why they're not pushing up onto the arc. There's a lot of guys fighting south of the temple. Just move up.
So here's the thing, though. I think this is about to be all blue either way. So fight down there, fight up there, wherever you were. I think you're about to be sad-faced if you are from E3O1. So
here we go.
Is what it is.
Yeah, I think. Just to kind of call back on your looking forward ahead into the brackets, I gotta say, good job on VL, but very unfortunate. I kind of, looking a little bit further, I did cover VL and AX on my channel the first week. So VL actually swept their group and gets the short end of the stick. Meanwhile, AX is on the other side of the bracket on that bottom portion that we were talking about is probably the most favorable position in this realm. So VL doing a great job, but kind of getting the short end of the stick as they're gonna probably most likely gonna have to go up and face 93 next week.
That is a little rough the way that bracket worked out, huh? Like you'd think that because they won their bracket, they would have the more favorable position. But as it turns out, if you look ahead in this realm, the bottom right of the bracket is probably the side of the bracket that has the most opportunity.
Yep.
And I say that because we were talking about this before the stream. But the reason we sort of arrived at that conclusion is because the entire left side of the bracket's filled with 93. That's a tough place to be, including the former champions. The right side of the bracket, in the upper right portion, I remember Wib is up there, and there was one other...
JST,
that's it.
Two legacy teams.
Two legacy teams in the upper right portion of the bracket. So it's really the bottom right portion of the bracket is where the opportunity lies in this season. Not to say that those teams aren't going to be really difficult to beat, but if I were hoping for a spot on the bracket where I want my team to progress rather than take what I would perceive to potentially be the hardest matches, right? I just feel like that bottom right portion of the bracket, based on historical performance, has the most opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's I know it's tough because a few years ago we had the 60, I think it was 60 MX and 60 GT in the finals in the respective realms, and it seems that Lilith puts teams in the same kingdom on the same side of the bracket, i.e. all the 93 teams, VL being a part of Kingdom 1188, with 1188's primary team also being on the left side of the bracket. So I've kind of expressed this. I would like to see maybe that change a little bit. And again, kind of to this point, that VL really getting the short end of the stick and just being in such a monster side. Whereas I think that they garnered the right by clearing their group and being in that little pocket of the bracket that's a little bit more favorable. So I hope to see those changes in the future. I don't know if you have any thoughts on kingdoms being on the same side of the bracket for OL.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tricky one. I totally get the reason why, as a tournament organizer, you'd want to do that, which is that in the final, it is not good viewing to have a kingdom battling itself, right?
Yeah.
So, and when you think about a kingdom as a unit, say, well, ideally each kingdom has one dominant team that is progressing. From that perspective, I think it makes sense to put all those teams on the same side of the bracket. Obviously, though, if you're a kingdom that has multiple teams, this is like the last thing you want. It's like, hey, come on, like, we're really good. Don't punish us for being good. But
yeah,
I think, like, if you prio the viewer, then for the viewer, the best thing is to not have a kingdom have multiple teams fighting themselves in the fight. So you could totally justify either way.
Yeah.
But I think you, the viewer, are the priority here for the tournament. And, at the end of the day, like, I think it is more exciting to see two different kingdoms slugging it out in the final. So totally can see the justification either way. And let's see here. 15 minutes left in this match, by the way. 10K differential is still maintained. Arc is chilling. Do you think there's anything... There's nothing at this point that can be done, right? I mean, okay, take it back. They could take the Arc and score it. Like Red needs to ambush the Arc carrier. They need to be asleep.
Yeah,
I always look for... This is like 1 in a million territory, right? Like,
yeah, that really is the only play at this point.
What they'd have to do is take out the carrier, score it at this obelisk, then they need to, like, master strategist the next arc to score it, like, if they even have the ability points for that. I don't think they do. So it's a bit of a GG here, I think, in the final 15 of this match. What do you think of their skill choices, by the way? Anything surprising? Anything feel like would have served these teams better than what they've used? We do now see the full complement of skills, which is... I'm a little surprised they did that for Yell. They just revealed their final skill, which I believe was Dust Up.
Yeah, I think I think the skill choices were sound. I think the usage, just as we called out on that second arc, just could have been a little bit tweaked up better. But this is very, very much what we've been seeing in this Osiris League. It's a lot of bog down, it's a lot of dust up, total vision. To the depth hasn't been used as much as I've seen in Osiris League's past, but yeah, a little bit of a mix for your open field mid fights with those skills I just mentioned, and also kind of trickling in a teardown or a valiant stand here and there if you do decide to maybe opt for a little bit more of a structure approach.
It's nice to have abilities of different point values in the lineup, like if you get into that situation where it's like, I got 1 point to work with, it's nice to have something you can do, right?
Yeah, I really too like the offensive use of Valiant Stand, as some people kind of use once they take a structure, and they'll use that to hold. And I think there was a match that I just watched last week. I think it was 1718 who's going to be facing 93T, and they went full structure approach on the first arc, the kind of maybe only sending about 50% of their resources and really having an interesting close match as they held all altars. So structure game is definitely something that can be at play, and it's not just all about the middle game. So really nice to see the usage of some of those cheap skills, as you mentioned, like Valiant Stand and Teardown.
I like that some of the skills that we didn't see last season are in use this season as well. That Valiant Stand Teardown combo. I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're, working on the game as a developer. It's like, okay, well, we think these are cool skills. Players aren't picking them. Let's just lower the cost.
Yeah.
Right? You lower the cost or make them stronger, and then players will probably pick them. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing, right? Didn't those used to be like 2 or 3 points? I can't remember.
I think they were like, about 2, definitely 2. I think one may have been like 3, but yeah, just way too much to garner, especially when you have, some of these other skills, which just, as you read them, they just sound better,
Yeah. There's that Hera garrison you mentioned earlier, by the way. The Hera YSS. Didn't see as much of it this match, but you called out these are the 2 garrisons, and those have been the 2 garrisons. It's the Hera YSS and the Gorgo with Hera.
Yep, Gorgo with Hera, and then on those advanced structures, when someone takes an opposing structure, you'll most likely will always see a Jan Hera, which...
Yeah, you're right. We did see Jan. We did see 3 garrisons then. Yeah.
Yeah, Jan Hera typically being the choice, getting him up the field a little bit faster with the cav units. So I'm curious to see how next week's matches are going to shape up with some of these potential Eleanors making an appearance, because even when you get a Jan into an advanced structure, he's not holding it for very long. Eleanor, as you had stated, still not quite as anti-swarm as we would like, but we'll see. I've definitely been wrong reading some of these skills on paper, and they just perform totally different. So I'm very curious to see what these next week matches are going to hold with the commanders.
Yep. I mean, it's easy to have an opinion, but I like the results to speak for themselves as soon as we have our hands on those commanders. So I know I'll be doing some testing literally the moment they're in game. Might cost me a lot of sculptures to do that testing, by the way, but
it's worth it.
Hey, we'll know. We'll have the answer. Oh, man. And then we'll see them in Arc League, presumably, which then we'll really know. Because these teams, hey, look, we'll do a little testing, we'll figure some stuff out. But these teams, they need to know, right? They need to know. And if they're wrong, and another team is right about combinations and usage, it could cost them a game. So pretty important for the top tier OL teams to be getting this right. I mean, they're low on troops when you get the siege and the march, by the way. It's not there for the troop diversity, in my opinion. I think that is there because they are low. low.
The call to stop using healing speed ups has definitely been made.
Right. This is how you know is the siege are on the field, folks. Have you seen any V formation in Arc?
There has been a few. Yeah, I know 60 MX in the match that we're going to be covering next against GV77, I believe is the tag. There is one player who brings ranged formation into the mid fights, which has seemed to be somewhat disruptive, and I believe I saw another match. Not a lot, but there has been a few, and I've been seeing them utilized in those mid fights.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. And it does not surprise me that it's 1960 as a kingdom that would be one of the first to go and do that. I think it's funny, when the game introduces a new thing that will require equipment, armaments, and inscriptions, etc. I mean, it takes players a year or 2 to get up and running with that. Because, they already had their projects, their priorities, their investments. So, to see what can be done with it, I think is kind of exciting. Now we're covering that in the next match, which is coming up in about an hour from now. This match has about 8 minutes remaining. Any learnings or takeaways that you would pull from this match and say, hey, for those of you, looking to improve your arc game, do these things. Is there anything that stands out?
I think the main thing, which I've been harping on, even last week when I was with Plato, don't undervalue provisions and outposts. The points may not seem big, but in these knockout rounds, all the points matter. And I would say even if you're kind of like a mid-tier team in terms of power or account status, like maybe as we're probably going to see in some of these first rounds, and you really need to kind of get a little bit creative to face some of these bigger guys. Look, I would say, watch a little bit of Evil Empire 1EE8. Those guys are provisioning masters, and like you said, they always have some kind of trick up their sleeve that they're kind of formulating to just think outside the box and not stay so structured when it comes to their strategy. So those are probably some of the biggest call outs that I can make, even for top tier teams too, is don't undervalue these outposts and these provisions, because they are going to show to pay off as we get into these later stages.
I dig it, man. I think that's good advice. I am one of the more guilty parties of underestimating provisioning. I've been around a while, so I reference this. But, back when Arc first came out, Gecko Gaming was like, hey, provisioning's going to be a thing. And I was like, no. Turns out, provisioning has been a thing, kind of on and off, all throughout Arc League. And I think that it's kind of cool to see that even though there is Fog of War, which makes provisioning harder, you can still get a huge upset win against a top team by provisioning.
Yep.
And that's exactly what E8 did last week. And like I said, if there's a team in the league that's going to do those sorts of shenanigans, that's where I'd look for it,
Yeah, I'm excited to even just try and watch a little bit more film on those guys and just see, because and here's the thing too, which with this new structure, we can watch matches and whatnot, so you got to kind of apologize to some of these teams that have like a little niche thing that they do, but people are going to start to figure these things out, guys. So doing your diligence too is another thing that I would suggest to teams, is you can watch film on any of these teams. You can learn that I have a spreadsheet here of who's garrisoning in what structures, what tendencies they're going to have during their first arc, what skills they use, so you gotta be diligent. If you're really serious about OL, you got to take all the according steps to really get to that point. And you can see a team like Evil Empire really kind of taking those in stride.
Yeah. I think one thing I'll add for me as a takeaway here is, like, the moment I saw marches going past the outposts here and there wasn't like a plan to take them, I was kind of like, all right, well, that's probably a signal for the level of organization of the team. And that's not a criticism, but the observation, which for years has always reigned true for me, is that if you can't execute a perfect opener, how do you expect to execute a perfect rest of the game?
Yeah.
And so as a spectator, I go, okay, if the part they could have scripted in advance isn't going well or perfectly, that does not bode well for how the rest of the match could go. So I think if you're watching this and you're thinking, what do I do? Buttoning up and really this stage, round of 16, perfecting your entry is a great starting point.
Yeah, huge. It's a great call out.
Yeah, like you might be able to come back from a bad start, but also literally the difference between a good start and a bad start is you. It's typically not your enemy. So, I mean, unless they do something really crazy, and again, like you'd have to be really unprepared. The reason we don't see these Hail Mary openers is because they just don't really work.
Yeah.
And they don't really work because the preparation offsets the chance of success by too much. So they're not worth doing, which again, I think is a good balance for the game and points to the value of that early game scripted entrance and preparation.
Opening is almost everything. It sets the tone, and I've always been to the point is you want to be the one dictating, and if you fall behind in those early phases of the match, you're no longer in the driver's seat, and you kind of have to be a little bit more reactive.
And there really is a lot of value to driving the pace of the game. We've seen it. Just, you want to know why that's true? Just look at what happens when one team has the arc, right? And the other doesn't.
Yeah.
Driving the pace of the game. They control when things happen, and that is big.
Really good performance here from VL. I'm curious to see. Again, they've kind of rolled all the way through these matches, so curious to see what their next week match is going to lie with the winner of 1718 and 93T. So, barring an upset, I think they're going to have to be well oiled in order to take down the beast.
That is true. They are up against potentially the former champion, so they got a rough road ahead. But I will say 1188 has really kind of built a name for themselves as being a top tier kingdom. And here they are, getting a win in Osiris League. The point differential here is almost a 2-1 spread. It's almost 38,000 to 18,500 here. So it's pretty meaningful.
Surprisingly, Chiz, too, I'm looking on the other tab. No heals from E3O1 pretty much whatsoever. So I think that tells a little bit of maybe their expectations of going into this thing.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, it's a non-zero cost, right? And you look down that bracket, it's like, hey, yo, it doesn't get easier from here. It does not get easier from here. Looks like everybody had fun in this match, though. Running things down all the way to the very end.
Yeah, which you do like to see.
Love to see it. Oh, obelisk action going on. City swarming.
Running up those points for those Osiris League profile pictures, potentially.
True. I think I have one or two of those where it's like, hey, yo, I got swarmed a lot. I didn't know you could get this many points in an Osiris match. Swarm a high power city. That'll really stack up those points, man. GG. Yeah, I think city swarming this is how you know. This is the victory dance here.
Oh, yeah.
They're taking out the cities. And, hey, it's reasonable. Pro tip is that if you don't want to get ported back to the starting zone, you can always just extinguish your wall. If you don't extinguish your wall, you're getting ported.
A little bit of good sportsmanship there, too, from E3O1 throwing the emoji, so... like to see it all the way to the end.
Well, this match is wrapped up. If you enjoyed this one, throw a like on here. Subscribe. And we'll be back in less than an hour for the next match of the day. Should be an exciting one to cast. I do see this, the timer's at 0, but there's still a match going on here.
Yeah, a little bit of a glitch I noticed last week too. There we go.
Do we have another couple minutes? Okay, there it is. I was like, huh. All right. Very cool. Frog, the MVP.
Very nice, VL.
VL, the victor. E3O1. GG, well played. We'll be back in about an hour. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, just very excited to come back. I think the next match is going to be Very interesting one. Let's keep in mind that 2377 GV77 is in Kingsland right now too. So huge,
Oh, so
huge
inconvenient.
thing to look at right there, going up against 1960s extra team 60 MX. So that should be a very interesting one.
Wow.
To watch.
All right, well, if you enjoyed the stream, throw a like on here, subscribe to the channel. You can check out our channels linked in the description. Dirty Dan is at Dirty Dan Gaming. I'm at Chiscool on YouTube. Hope you'll check us out. Subscribe to the official channel for more Ark of Osiris League. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom, and we'll see you in the next match.